welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 193 for the 30th of June 2012. Although as I'm recording this, it's actually the 1st of July 2012 at 4 o'clock in the morning because, oh yes, I'm going to be clever this year. I'm flying to the States in a few days and I thought, I know. I hate getting jet lag when I'm over there and staying up all night. It's crazy. So I thought, I know, I'll get up early all week this week at 4 o'clock in the morning and pre-adjust my internal body clock. It's a nice idea. Trouble is, for the past 4 or 5 days, I've felt jet-lagged. Jet-lagged even before I go. I will let you know next week, dear listener, if this experiment is successful. But let's look at this week's episode of The Skeptic Zone. Coming up, I interview Wison de Silva, the editor of Cosmos magazine here in Australia. Now, it's amazing to think 7 years ago I last interviewed Wison de Silva about Cosmos magazine, and that's when the magazine was just launched. Of course, Australian listeners will know Cosmos magazine. It's a famous magazine, science magazine here in Australia. And Wilson's going to tell us about the launch of their new iPad edition. Very exciting, sort of a very nice use of iPad technology. Wilson will also tell us about the dangers of solar flares and EMPs, electromagnetic pulses. Could they fry the grid, so to speak? Could they harm our electronics? Well, they probably could. That's coming up at the top of the show. Then after the break, it's Maynard's spooky action. Maynard is going to be talking to what they call a prepper. A prepper, somebody who prepares. In this case, it's Tim Ralston, who has a new series about so-called doomsday preppers. But in this case, Tim will be talking about the dangers of, well, EMP. Electromagnetic pulses, what they could do and what he intends to do if it happens to survive. I found this interview very interesting. I've never really given much thought to survivalists or preppers or things like that, but you know what? There's a bit of common sense thrown in there, I think. Maybe I should go out and start learning how to make a campfire. See what you think. Have a listen, see what you think. Coming up later in the show with Maynard's spooky action. Listen at the end of the show for details about how you can win a DVD of Doomsday Preppers. Now, we've been getting so many entries in our religious limerick competition, we've decided to extend it for one more week. Yes, you have one more week. Well, you've got about 3 or 4 days, I guess, to really get your entries in. So any limerick based on a religious or biblical theme, send them in. The winner will get the Christ Conundrum, The Skeptic's Guide to Jesus by Andrew Carruth, autographed. So if you have a religious limerick, please send it in. We'll be getting so many. And Stefan Soika, the other co-host, will be the judge. He's really been enjoying all those entries. In fact, we're going to send all the entries, winning or not, off to Andrew Carruth. Now, before we get stuck into the Skeptic Zone this week, a quick note for students everywhere. Why not visit www.60secondscience.net, that's www.60secondscience.net, 60 Second Science, where you can enter a competition. You make a short video, 60 seconds, about a scientific topic, and there are prizes to be won. So you budding young filmmakers out there and teachers, check it out. 60secondscience.net, enter a short science video, prizes to be won. Well, I'm going to go downstairs now and have that very early morning cup of coffee, get the old brain cells firing, hopefully, while you enjoy The Skeptic Zone. now I'm actually at the office of Cosmos magazine itself, speaking with Wilson de Silva. Wilson, great to see you again.
Absolute pleasure.
And I remember being in the Cosmos office 7 years ago when we were discussing this great, brave new magazine on the scene. Yeah.
I know. Can you believe that? That was 7 years ago. 7 years almost exactly to the date.
Yeah.
It was on the winter solstice in 2005.
Get away.
That we launched
Really,
it. And
yeah.
it was again on the winter solstice this year that we celebrated the 7th anniversary, and we did our new thing, which was launch the iPad edition. In fact, we launched it at exactly 9:07 a.m., which is when the sun reached its highest point.
Now, I must say, I'm so impressed because I really love when people get something like the iPad. And a lot of people don't take the iPad seriously enough, I think. Personally, I use it just about everything except for washing the dishes. It's incredibly useful, and I'm sure there'll be an app for that before too long. But what I really appreciate is when people make that extra effort to really utilize what an iPad can do. And me, I just sit at home and go, thanks, I'll have that, download, and I can really get a great deal of benefit out of it. You've done exactly this with the new Cosmos iPad edition.
Yes, we have. The exciting thing was, well, good to go back 7 years. When we launched the print magazine, we had a new way of doing stories. We weren't going to be, even though we're an Australian-based magazine about science, we weren't going to be just about Australian science. We wanted to do science all over the world. We would have an Australian perspective in that, we look at the world differently. We don't look at it from a US perspective. And to an extent, we weren't looking at an Australian perspective. We're looking at it as, wow, isn't this cool? Isn't this awesome? Mm-hmm. That's always the angle we took. We also did something different. At the time in 2005, everyone was going shorter and shorter articles because they were being influenced by the internet. What we did is went longer articles. We were doing 5,000 word, 5,500 word, 6,000 word articles. And we've now gone bigger. We've gone 9,000 word articles. And we've established this niche globally where we're really respected. We won like 45 awards in 7 years. We're respected because, in fact, we were called at the World Conference of Science Journalists in Qatar, in Doha. I was introduced at one panel as the editor of the world's only literary science magazine. Yeah. And, it struck me that that's actually true. We're the only one. Now, okay, so 7 years have gone past. We've changed the way, the magazine looks substantially different to that one that you saw originally in issue number one.
Yeah. But in a way not.
In a way not. The same philosophy is through it.
Yeah, it's recognisable as the same magazine in a way, I think, because it's bold and it's colourful and it grabs your attention, the cover right off the start, as does the cover of the iPad edition, and that's just the beginning.
Well, there you go. The ethic is all the way through. It's we've always thought of Cosmos as an intelligent companion on the road to discovery, that the kind of person that doesn't talk to you, doesn't talk down to you, but is just really excited and wants to go on this road with you. We've always thought of that, and we always have a test of filters that we run through for stories. A story has to be amazing, surprising, or deep. Or it can be all of those things, and quite often they are, certainly the big cover stories. But they have to have one of those elements for them to work. And we don't care where the story's from. So we've had Margaret Wertheim, who's an Australian living in Los Angeles, goes to Antarctica and interviews Norwegians, Swedes, and New Zealanders. We're interested in the story first. So we're kind of lucky in that we've always been global, okay, from day one.
Yeah.
We were, however, trapped in Australia, in the sense that we produced this beautiful magazine. It cost a lot. It cost $10.95 an issue, and it's costing $59 a year to subscribe for 6 issues. And by the time it reached the US or the UK, it was so expensive with shipping and distribution and all these fees that actually it made it, even though it was so expensive, we still had 15% of subscribers overseas.
Wow.
And it was, but it's still expensive. It's for the aficionado.
Yeah.
Okay, come the iPad. Suddenly we can think, hey, we don't have the costs of distribution, shipping, warehousing, printing, any of those, postage. So what can we do? So we thought we'd double the amount of content, so produce 12 issues a year on the iPad, and halve the price. And that's what we've done.
12 issues a year.
12 issues a year. So you get. So it's kind of odd because if you're a print subscriber, you're thinking, well, how am I getting this other issue? As a print subscriber, you get it for free. You get the iPad editions for free. So it's up to you to use as you wish.
Yeah.
In fact, as a print subscriber, we treat you like a king in that you get everything you can get. There's a browser edition, which I'll tell you about a little bit later. There's a whole bunch of other stuff you get, but the print subscribers get everything. Or you can just do iPad, which means it's like $25 a year. Why have we done this? Is because we think that 5 years from now, 8 years from now, at some point, the transition from print to digital will be so complete that actually few publications in the world will be print, and there'll probably be a tablet of some kind or some other format. We don't know. There'll be digital of some kind.
Yeah.
But that print will be reserved for really special, and maybe Cosmos will be one of those, because it's lush. It is gorgeous to look at. But what we've tried to do is maintain that gorgeous feel. In fact, internally the joke is that we want to write like New Yorker and look like Vanity Fair. And that's the ethic that drives us. Can we make science so sexy, so exciting, so without downplaying it, right? So it's really important to maintain that serious tone. That is, science is important, but it doesn't have to be overly serious. You can still have a bit of fun.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I'll just grab my iPad at the moment so we can discuss the very issue. I think if you can hold that and
sure.
we can have a little explorer together through it. What I was saying earlier about the look of Cosmos, which was so important in the magazine, not the TV series with Carl Sagan, which we talked about last time I was here.
Did. I love that series.
Is the fact that you've got these animations, but they're used sparingly and where appropriate. Now, we're looking at one in a brain cell which just disappeared, and here it comes again. And it looks fabulous. It doesn't detract. It doesn't say, here's the animation, look at me. It's just, it's an interesting sort of introduction to a story.
It is. So it's focusing, it's a picture of, the story's called Light Switch. It's got a single brain cell focused on by what looks like a laser beam. The animation has a zoom into that, and then the light beam lights up. But if you look at the print issue, exactly the same. There isn't an animation, obviously, but the image is exactly recognizable. With the iPad edition, you actually, once you're inside a feature, and if you're holding it in portrait mode, you page up.
Yeah.
You push the page up.
You push the page up, and there's the first page, second page, and
away you go. It's called snap to grid. It snaps into position. It's kind of so. What we're trying to do, we realized we tried the replicating the book situation you have with ebooks, where you flip through, and because it's so image intensive, it actually is overwhelming. You actually get tired of doing this all the time, of turning your finger, flipping your finger, because there's so much. So if you go up and down, if you swipe between articles, but you go up and down within an article. Now, what that created for us. So we're now in section page 3 of the story Light Switch, and there's the top half of the page is what looks like a cutaway of the brain.
Yeah.
Now, we thought, if we're doing this, what happens if you're doing landscape mode? Instead of just rejigging the text and the picture to landscape mode, what we actually do, and I'll turn into landscape mode now, is you zoom in. You have a complete screen is covered in the cutaway of the brain.
And what's good, you don't have to double tap on a picture or tap and expand your fingers. You simply rotate the iPad, and the main picture on the page comes up brilliantly and fills up the whole page.
It does. So we started thinking, hold on, this acts as adding value to the reader.
Yeah.
You look at one of the problems we have in print is always you're trying to stuff things in. There's so much stuff that you do in picture research that looks great, but you can't use everything. And this allows us to use not only everything, but actually give way more detail.
And that was just a picture on the page. This is another page now, and there happened to be a picture on it. You turn the iPad into landscape, and woof, up it comes.
So this is channels collecting proteins on the surface of the brain.
Good heavens.
It's stunning, isn't it?
It is. That's a wonderful picture.
How crisp it looks.
Yeah.
And
this isn't even the new one. This isn't even Retina.
This is well, there you go. And we can actually add animation. So this is actually instead of a breakout being a little tucked in on the side, you can actually fill up a full page with it.
Yeah.
You use the contents as kind of the way to guide you guide your way through everything. So there's a tab at the top which always gets you to contents. Every single big feature has some element of animation.
The contents goes on and on and on.
And on. It does.
It's amazing.
And you notice how it's got that feel. It still feels like a contents from Cosmos.
Yeah.
So if you're familiar with Cosmos, you're not going to be lost in this. The important thing was where we have animations and we have lots of extra fun bells. Some of them are fun bells and whistles, like that story on malaria. Just have a look at this.
Up comes a mosquito.
So a crosshairs appears on the mosquito, and it's the malaria's last stand. It's kind of like about targeting the mosquito. Yeah. Okay, a little bit of fun, but we can have a little bit of fun every now and then, so long as you don't overdo it. The problem we noticed with a lot of magazines that have publishers who have gone on iPad is we could see it from a production perspective. that they were thinking of, okay, we've done the print edition, now let's do the iPad edition. What kind of doodads can we add to it, right? Not wow, let's do it again from a different angle, but what kind of doodads? So they just want to bolt on.
And you don't want to alienate readers, do you? You don't want somebody who's been enjoying Cosmos for many years on their in the magazine edition form, suddenly downloading it on an iPad and saying, "What is this?"
It's important to maintain a design ethic, but it also was important not to just add stuff for the sake of it. Okay, it had to add to the story. Does it take the story a little bit further? Yeah. Does it make a comment? Does it speak to the headline better? Does it, you have to create a narrative arc, as we like to call it. It feels right when you're inside the story. You know you're in the malaria story. There's little tricks that not even aware of, but we've used the same color all the way through. This red that appears through
I see, yes.
It's all the way through. You see this kind of montage, so you always feel like you see how the red is there in the pull quotes.
I see it. Yeah.
This subtly tells you that you're still in the malaria story. It's just, we've really put a lot of thought into the design, so you never feel like you're totally lost. That's important because sometimes in magazines like we've seen, like Wired, there's one thing you can press and another thing you can press, and then suddenly you think, where am I again?
Where am I? Yeah, and here you can tap the screen and or tap up the top here.
Yes.
You can get back to...
You always find your way back. Signposting was important all the way through. Yeah. This kind of sounds like simple, but it only sounds simple once you've done it. Before you've done it, before you've learned these platforms and figured out how to do it, there aren't any manuals on this. You've got to learn it as you go. You just seriously, the people we use, wonderful people, is a Sydney-based developer called Oomph. Mo Generation is the company, but Oomph is the platform. The platform is incredibly powerful and can do lots of things, but they haven't had people push the technology as much as we did. Mm-hmm. So we got to the point where we were asking them questions that nobody had ever asked them, and we started doing things nobody had ever done because we really care about the content we produce, and we really wanted to make an awesome magazine.
Yeah, of course.
And it has to be said, we also wanted to be global, because this is the thing about when you're niche, which is what science is. Science is a niche. Science is a niche in magazine terms, like woodworking or cycling magazines.
You think science is a niche? You should try skepticism.
Well, there's a niche within a niche. Okay, but get this: in the iPad world or in the digital world, you are borderless. So, luckily we've always been a global magazine from day one, so we can actually capture a global market.
Sure.
So the reason we have doubled the staff and we've invested so much and doubled the content in the iPad edition, and we added all these doodads and extra bits, and the reason that we're staffing up to launch other publications is that we believe that there is a real global market in the Cosmos feeling, the way Cosmos tells stories, the way Cosmos designs and it captures the world of science, and we believe that market will buy this sort of thing. So we're actually planning, we've made an investment, we've raised extra capital, we've made an investment to make Cosmos the #1 science magazine in the world in 5 years' time. That's our ridiculous, big, hairy, audacious goal.
Well, you're still here. I mean, we were discussing 7 years ago the launch of a great new magazine, all the best, let's see how it goes and all the rest of it. Here I am, visiting you 7 years later. Not only is the magazine doing so well, but you're launching this wonderful new product.
We have, and look, we're the #1 science magazine in Australia. We've won 45 awards. Yeah. We're the #1 science news website in the country with 300,000 unique visitors every month and 1.25 million page impressions. And we have a circulate. We're not the largest, I don't think, science newsletter. I think the CSIRO is larger.
Okay.
We're at 25,000 subscribers weekly. But we have grown dramatically. We've done a whole bunch of things. We also did a green lifestyle magazine years ago, and we've sold it. We decided to focus on science, and in fact, we changed the name of the company from Lunar Media to Cosmos Media.
Oh wow!
We want to focus totally on science, everything science. So we actually do a whole bunch of stuff. We do undergraduate science careers guides, postgraduate careers guides. We do a lot of stuff for universities. We create posters. We work at the Academy of Science. There's a side of the business that's custom publishing, which is people in science come to us and say, "Hey, you make science look fantastic. Can you, do a poster or a book for us or something?" Right. We've even built websites for the federal government.
Get away.
We have, yeah. So I don't know if you remember in 2009, the International Year of Astronomy, for National Science Week that year, our project was Hello from Earth, to create a website where you could type in a Twitter message that was going to be sent to the nearest Earth-like planet outside our solar system. That was us. We created that.
Fantastic. Yeah. Just as an aside, Twitter told me yesterday or the day before that congratulations, Richard, you've been on Twitter for 4 years. I went, what?
4 years on Twitter. Yeah. And how many tweets have you done? That's the frightening one.
I'd have to have a look. I'm a bit scared to have a look. Now, Wilson, this is such a great addition on the iPad.
Thank you.
For two reasons. One, it's a wonderful use of the technology, and two, it's an interesting read. I mean, my goodness me, the articles in there. And what's really exciting, and exciting for our listeners all around the world, is they can get this edition for free.
They can. Free. So you download the app for free, the Cosmos magazine it's called, and then you get one free issue, which is the issue 43. The cover story is a solar apocalypse, about how it turns out that solar flares are actually way more powerful than we ever thought. It's a really cool story, actually. We came across it at the AAAS, the annual meeting of the American Association of Advancement Science last year, that everyone thought that the 1989 solar flare was thought to be the biggest and the worst, and that knocked out the Quebec power. The Quebec power grid was knocked out. Yeah. There were other effects, but we thought that was the case, the worst case scenario. It turns out that science historians going back over old records pieced together that the 1859, I think it was, rather than 69, 1859, the first solar flare ever spotted, they pieced together that actually that was like 4 or 5 times more powerful. Now, if that is the case, when that flare occurred, there weren't much electronics all over the world. There was basically, a few scattered telegraph networks, which, by the way, caught on fire. And telegraph stations, people had to jump back from them because of firing. So, but nobody put the two together, you see.
Oh, why would they?
Exactly. Yeah. And there were strange things detected in Mumbai and whatever where there were stations collecting magnetic data, but nobody had ever put the data together. Anyway, they put it. It's a bit of a mystery, sort of a mystery story. So putting all this data together, they realized that this thing was like 4 or 5 times worse than Quebec in 89, which meant that if it went off, if something like, and they don't know anything about it, why does the sun, we know that the sun is regular every 11 years with the cycle of sunspots and solar flares, but nobody knows about this. Is there another cycle we don't know about where flares are 4 or 5 times more intensive? Well, if it happened in 1859, it could happen again. But guess what? If it happens this time, we are a world that is wired to the cahoots.
Yeah.
So we talked to a lot of people around the world about what would be the implications, and guess what? It's not good.
No, I wouldn't think so.
It would mean that banking systems would go down. You wouldn't be able to do any banking transactions. You'd lose mobile communications. In fact, society as we know it and rely on it would come to a thundering halt.
It actually would.
It would. Yeah. And the question is, how long? It's not a case of it could be down for a day. It could be down for months or years, because if transformers blow, they don't have the huge transformers. They don't have them sitting around, on the shelf. These things take years to build, so they actually would have to order them or build them new. So. But it's not just a disaster story. So we called it solar apocalypse because, it does sound like an apocalypse if your mobile phone and your banking are out. But actually, there is a way to avoid it, and that is to, if you know it's coming, turn everything off.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, at least minimise the damage somewhat.
You minimise the damage. But get this, to know that it's coming, how do you know? You need to know that the flare is coming. And there's only one satellite in working order between us and the sun right now. That's a 15-year-old satellite that could actually detect us and give, at worst case scenario, 15-minute notice, 15, or best case scenario 1 hour, worst case scenario 15 minutes. And that is it. That is what is between us and certain calamity.
Yeah, that would be an interesting 1 hour, wouldn't it?
It would be. So
turn your radio off now. Stop listening to this.
So this is the thing. We can actually, the good news is we can actually avoid it. We do have a satellite there, and we need to be aware of this and actually, buttress that network and put another satellite up there. So that's an example of a really fun story. It sounds a little scary, but actually, it's a problem. It's been realised that it's a problem. It's got an element of history to it. It's got an element of physics, and it's got an element of technology to it.
And that's just one of the features, one of the stories in the iPad edition.
So that's the one that you should download. That's the one you get for free. Of course, hopefully, having tried that, you'll then download more and subscribe, because it's only like $25 a year, which, as I said, it's half price.
So, listeners, if you go to your iTunes store and search for Cosmos Magazine, or indeed if you visit the website, which is www.cosmosmagazine.com, All the information's there. I can sincerely recommend it. It's a great read and really an interesting, and I keep coming back to this theme, an interesting use of iPad technology, which I appreciate. I really appreciate when people go out there and use the thing to its extent.
Because you've seen it, haven't you? Yeah. There's been some apps that are really down in the mouth, and others you can see that the developer really got it.
Yes,
really understands the strength and the power of this platform, and what's called in science emergent properties. Emergent properties suddenly arise where you start doing things that even the developers of the iPad didn't expect you to do. But that's the cool thing.
Oh, that must happen every day.
It happens every day. And this is the wonderful thing about not just yes, we've launched on the Apple iPad, and eventually we would love to go on Android and every other form of technology. But, we've made a substantial investment to get to this point, assuming that the iPad edition, sells its pants off, then suddenly we'll do the development work on Android. But these are technologies that are expensive. They do require investment. Having said that, hopefully, we'll get such a following on this that we'll be able to do it. Within the first 4 days, we had 8,700 downloads. So it's looking good. Fingers crossed. I'm not going to get too cocky, but it's looking good.
Wilson De Silva, a great pleasure to talk with you. Let's make it less than 7 years next time. Let's do that. Thanks a lot.
Absolute pleasure.
Hi, this is Brian Dunning. Great news from the Skeptoid podcast. The 4th book, Astronauts, Aliens, and Ape Men, is now available. This book gives you the tools to sort the solid from the silly and answer such questions as, did Stalin actually try to create an army of half-ape, half-man super soldiers? Were the Apollo astronauts followed by a UFO all the way to the moon? Was Mozart really murdered by Antonio Salieri? Is there such a thing as ball lightning? Can martial arts masters kill without touching? Is an alien buried in the local cemetery in Aurora, Texas? Just search Amazon.com or come to Skeptoid.com/books to get your paperback copy today. It's also available for your Kindle, Nook, or iBooks for just $5. Astronauts, Aliens, and Ape Men. It's the perfect gift for that woo-woo friend of yours who doesn't listen to podcasts. Also,
I see all, big and small. I see everything you do, and I'm going to make sure everyone sees too.
The Secret of the Gypsy Queen, the musical fairy tale from Skeptoid episode number 300, is now available as a fully illustrated children's paperback. Artwork by Jesse Horn. It's the tale of a little girl who saves her kingdom when she is the only one who doesn't buy into the pop pseudoscience of the day. It's a wonderful, positive story that teaches children the value of skepticism. Lots of fun to read and look at the pictures while listening to the musical. The Secret of the Gypsy Queen is also available at Skeptoid.com/books. Every library should have one. This is Brian Dunning from Skeptoid.com. And remember, you should always be skeptical.
Because the Uber scarfs are con.
And now a new story that comes to us from newsbiscuit.com. Homeopath to start offering assisted suicide remedy. A homeopath in Banbury has decided to take politics into her own hands and start offering an assisted suicide treatment. The service will be offered to those with terminal illnesses where traditional homeopathic treatments have not worked. The number of eligible people is thought to be high. The practitioner, who goes by the name of Chai Windchime, explained that the remedy used has been through the emotional turmoil of death, which is then remembered and injected into the patient. We take our special Fawcett hydrogen dioxide formula to a funeral where it is surrounded by mourning people. This emotional experience of someone passing is remembered by the special solution. We take this back to my living room laboratory, where it is diluted with more of the original solution to create a remedy that is so weak its strength is lethal. When the time comes, a family member can inject the patient, then wait for the treatment to work. Ms. Wind Chime continued, the passing out room is painted lilac, and we play whale song to create an atmosphere that is relaxed and peaceful, which is just as well because the effects of the treatment on the terminally ill can take up to 2 years. Brenda Roberts took her mother to the homeopath to assist her in ending her life, but was not happy with the results. She got to the point where her quality of life was not what we wanted, so we convinced her that life was not worth living. So for her 50th birthday, we all chipped in and paid for her trip to Miss Windchime, and she went through the treatment. That was 4 years ago, and we are still waiting for her to keel over. Scientists have studied the claims made by the homeopathic community that this treatment works. But as Professor Brown from the Department of Real Life, Oxford University, said, more people died on the toilet last year than died from this treatment. He went on to explain, although those who practice alternative medicine will stand by their claims, we found through extensive research, testing and common sense that death rates amongst the terminally ill are already quite high. But Miss Windchime brushed the criticism off her velvet coat and explained, those in the business of scientific fact don't understand the remedy or how it works. In fact, as proof of its effectiveness, last week a man came in having a heart attack. The remedy was so good that he died before we could administer it. You can find the link to this amazing story at www.skepticzone.tv.
The Hansard is a podcast of the monthly lectures run by Canberra Skeptics Incorporated. Each month, Canberra Skeptics provides experts in their field, ranging from science and philosophy to politics and national security, with an opportunity to present their views. You can find us at www.canberraskeptics.org.au. The Hansard, Canberra Skeptics' Record of Reason.
Here's Maynard's spooky action at a distance.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a rather extraordinary person on the phone. I've got Tim Ralston, who's one of the, stars of Doomsday Preppers, a new show on the National Geographic Network, Thursdays 7:30 on the National Geographic Network. Tim, how are you?
I'm well. Thanks very much for having me.
Oh, look, and how prepared are you for an EMP attack?
Well, seeing that about half of the people here in the United States, I wouldn't even know what it would be in Australia that even know what an EMP is or what it can do. For myself, I'm very well prepared. For the most, the other people, not so much. So it's an electromagnetic pulse. That's basically you go to switch the lights on and nothing turns on.
Well, yes, it's certainly something I've known about since the days of the Cold War, where if you let an atomic bomb off, it sends a huge electronic pulse over a period of great distance that just stuffs up everything. I think it first happened in Hawaii in the 50s, didn't it?
Yeah, in 1965, they were doing some testing, and 800 miles away, Hawaii basically got shut down. So, that's the man-made threat, but, going into next year, the entire globe could basically be on the map when it comes to the sun shooting off, its solar flares, which will have the same effect. So, that's, when they did Doomsday Prepper, they were asking me what would be the worst case scenario. And to me, not living with power on the power grid, because we've all become so accustomed to, touching buttons and computers and everything, we've lost a lot of real important survival skills to be able to, live life day to day. My grandparents used to make it a daily routine, and it was, they never thought twice about being able to live without power. But nowadays, we are all really relying on it. So I'm hoping that nothing like that ever happens, but, we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
And also, it's not just the power will go off for a little while. All the instruments and devices that have electronic chips in them will be permanently fried. You can't fix them unless you replace them.
Exactly, and and if it happened on a global scale, there's not many people that are actually making them. We don't even make transformers here in the U.S. China's really the only one, and North or South Korea that are making them. So, it could take a good long while before you can come back and have that happen. As far as have the power back, it happened back in also 1859, where a huge solar flare hit the U.S. and basically fried telegraph wires because there was really no power at that point, but still, it got hit by a really massive solar flare. So for us, the whole prepping movement is just about being self-sufficient and knowing that it could happen. And if there's a chance that it could, then you have to take steps to be able to prepare yourself to help yourself, of course, first, and then to help your neighbors to come together and make it through any kind of catastrophe, no matter what it is. And I know y'all just got done with some tremendous flooding down there in Australia. So, it's one of those where people have that normalcy bias. It'll never happen to me, and then when it comes and hits you right in the face, it's kind of like, well, I guess it could happen to us. And that's after that point, then people take preparing, for the worst case scenario a lot more seriously. I know here in the States after Katrina happened, a lot of people saw a lot of people die and because they weren't prepared. So that really started a big movement here in the U.S. and it's gaining a lot of speed. For me as a prepper, I go by the rule of three. I have a backup to the backup to the backup, and you have plan A, B, and C. So I tend to think that way. And once you're at a great level of preparedness, whether even it's big or small, that sense of calm comes over you. And, I think that a lot of people out there, they can't handle that unknown factor, what if, and the more they go and take matters into their own hands and make small adjustments to their life, whether it be just having a week's supply worth of food, they feel a little better, a little calmer, so that if something were to happen, they could, make it through and adjust to whatever situation, adapt and overcome.
And look, Tim, what is the downside of all this preparation? You're obviously a very handy guy. You can do lots of stuff around the house. You're self-resilient. You've got it all going on there. What's the downside to having to live this way?
There is no downside, honestly. And when you say this way, it sounds like that it could be a negative, and really it's all a positive. For me, it's great family building time. When I go quote and train with the kids, we just go camping, but I go out there with an agenda to teach them things, survival skills. So as a parent, I feel great knowing that my kids can start a fire and build a shelter. And here in Arizona, most people die within a mile of being saved. They die of hypothermia up here in the mountains. Even though it's the desert, it still gets cold at night, and they just don't have the basic skills. And so for me, everything is a positive. I really don't have any drawbacks at all. I've made it, for me, a business, and it's been, a good positive thing. Plus, I get to help a lot of people, and that's where the Doomsday Prepper thing came in. Is now I get to talk to a ton of people, and I feel great helping them out, knowing that at least I've given them the seed to go and plant and say, okay, maybe that guy will make it, maybe he won't. I don't know if anything bad happens, but I'm always glass is half full kind of guy. I don't want to look at it in any other way. Life's way too short.
Now, Tim, what would it actually take on a national level for the government to make you and your family feel safe? Is there anything the government can do or someone above you that would make you feel a little bit more safer?
No, I think that our government is doing a good job. FEMA's out there trying to spread the word and helping everybody prepare. But unfortunately, not everybody heeds that warning, and I don't think that the government can go out there and force people to be able to take care of themselves. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't think anything ever in their life is going to happen bad for them. They think that, the stores will always be open and, nothing will ever happen bad. Like, I'm sure a lot of people in Australia thought, nah, we're never going to have a flood ever again as big as that you guys had in 74. And sure enough, last year it was, all the headlines were biblical floods. And a lot of people, I'm sure, were caught unprepared. And, I don't think that the government can ever, prepare enough for that. I think that it's everybody's responsibility, to take care of themselves. There's got to be some accountability, and that's where I think, the prepping movement is finally catching hold, and people are finally taking matters into their own hands, and they're saying, all right, well, I can take care of myself. I just need to get a few essential supplies and maybe a little training, and that's where we're hoping to make a difference.
Now, Tim, what do you think is the line between being prepared and being alarmist? Do you think there is such a thing?
I don't think so. I mean, I think that every person, especially even on the show, some people may bring it to that extreme level, but to one person's extreme is another person's normal. So, for me, an extreme case is someone that's sitting at home and doing nothing and sitting back going, don't worry, the government will be here, they'll make everything better. As much as you like your government and think that it's going to happen, they just can't be in all places at all times to help you. So that to me is extreme on the opposite way. So I think as long as you prepare in your to your comfort zone, you go within your budget. Don't go, getting into debt to be prepared. As I said earlier, it doesn't take a ton of money to be prepared or be a prepper. It takes knowledge, and knowledge is free. You can go out on the net, and I mean, even on my blog site, I give a ton of tips every day to people, and say, here, learn something every day. If you learn one thing, it takes a couple of minutes, but that one thing that you learn may be the thing that saved your life. So it's really a simple thing.
One last tip before we go. What's the first thing that should be in our mind when an emergency happens, Tim, as we go?
First thing is to be calm and assess the situation. I mean, that's the first thing. When you react hastily, that's when you get into trouble. So it's to be able to sit back, take a deep breath, and look around, and then you make the decisions at that point. They say, like, out of 10 people, 8 of the people will sit there in an emergency and not do a thing. One of the persons will run around the store or the building, saying the sky is falling, and there'll be a crazy person. And then one person will be calm, assess the situation, and lead the other 8 out of the burning building. So, that's the point, is just to be calm and assess the situation.
Well, that's good advice for, the end of the world or the end of a hot date.
There you go. Exactly.
Thank you very much, Tim.
In a world where the truth is a matter of opinion, where messages are received from beyond the grave, and reason is sidelined for magical thinking, only 3 men stand between the truth and a postmodernist abyss.
What date is it? 7th, 8th? 7th, 8th?
This is impressive.
Are these artist impressions?
They're not. They're photographs of Chinese lanterns.
It's not. It's not.
We are not well researched.
Yeah, because
good God, we're full.
We don't discuss cryptozoology on this show very often because we don't know anything about it.
That's true. That is true.
The price gets lower and lower and lower, and then he hits a ceiling.
It's a ceiling from the room below.
Skeptics with a K from the Merseyside Skeptic Society. Find us on iTunes, or don't.
The Dirty Disbelievers, Episode 9.
Dirty Disbelievers!
Don't harsh my mellow, man. Yes, Dr. H and Richard Saunders attend a New Age fair, and rude words fly. Did you know that being called clever is not always a good thing? The Dirty Disbelievers 9 at dirtydisbelievers.com, maynard.com.au, and where all good conspiracies are solved.
Dirty Disbelievers.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Next week's Skeptic Zone will come to you from the San Francisco Bay Area, where I'm spending a few days before heading off to Las Vegas for the amazing meeting. And if you're in the Bay Area, check out www.baskeptics.org Scroll down there on the right and you'll see details about my talk, The Downfall of Power Balance, which will be on Wednesday the 11th of July at the Penna Lounge, which is a 6-minute stroll from Ashby BART Station. Check out the website for more details, and I hope I can see you there. I'm also very excited to be catching up with the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe people in the Bay Area before TAM, and my dear friend Eugenie Scott from the National Centre for Science Education. I'm looking forward to it all, and I'm looking forward to beating jet lag this time. Ha-ha, wish me luck. Hasn't worked yet. Do you have a cure for jet lag, international listeners? There's no real cure, is there? It's just something you have to sort of get your mind around and your body around, more importantly, I guess. Thank you for all those people who support the Skeptic Zone with your small contributions each week, less than $1. And thank you to those people who occasionally chip in by sending in a bit more. In fact, owing to a very kind donation, just last week I was able to buy a mini tripod, which I'll be using on my trip to the United States and Ham Las Vegas. Thank you indeed. But before I sign off, if you enjoyed the interview with Tim Ralston, the prepper, getting ready for all sorts of bad events, Maynard has a couple of DVDs from the series of Doomsday Preppers to give away to some listeners. All you have to do is write to me, that's richard@skepticzone.tv, and tell me in a very short paragraph what skills you have that you could use to barter if the worst came to the worst. If a EMP knocked out all the power grid and we're all left in the dark, and you had to get some food somehow, what could you do? What skills could you offer people to swap for a can of beans? Be interested to know, what would you do? Very short paragraph. We'll run that for a week, and the best two entries, as judged by Maynard, will receive a DVD of Doomsday Preppers. Well, it's time for me to put this microphone in my carry bag, together with the video camera, some other equipment, my new tripod, my iPad, and a little netbook for editing the Skeptic Zone. I wonder if there'll be any room for my undershirts with all this. And I'll get ready to jet off to the United States. But for this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off early in the morning from Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to The Skeptic Zone. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for comments, contacts, and extra video reports.